Welcome to the Hockey Writers Flames Faceoff, a weekly show with our top Calgary Flames writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, game results, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from draft day to the trade deadline, our team covers everything that happens with the Flaming Sea. So get set, get focused. It's time for the Flames Faceoff. Flames Faceoff.
Hello, everybody. I'm Paul Quinney, and this is the Flames Faceoff, brought to you by the Hockey Writers. Now, this week's show is being brought to you by the Morning Skate, a daily newsletter delivered right to your inbox Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. sharp, and it's just jam-packed full of the best hockey stuff on the planet. It's a daily dose of the latest NHL news, rumors, history, funnies, quizzes. I'm a subscriber, and I just love it. I highly recommend it to you. It's just a little hockey fun and information brought to you every day of the week by the Hockey Writers. And now, to get it, you need to be a subscriber. So Google the Morning Skate at the Hockey Writers and subscribe. Now, let's get on with it. Our panel today, we have Greg Tysowski and Brett Krauss. Welcome, gentlemen. I hope you're doing well and you're ready to get right at it. Yeah?
Oh, of course.
Let's do it.
The head's nodding. We've got a lot to talk about today. But before we get into all of that, let's do our traditional one good and one bad from the week. I'm going to start. And my good would be the Calgary Flames defense core. Wow is all I can say. In the last 4 games, they racked up 23 points. And Daryl Sutter said recently that he needs to see his D-men score 35 goals this season. They're already at 20. So who would have thunk that the Flames' much-needed secondary scoring would start to come from the blue line? Crazy things happen, but good news for the Flames D. And then my bad is none other than Brad Marchand. For punching the Penguins goalie, Tristan Jarry, in the head, and then swinging him, taking a poke at him, I guess, in the face with his stick, all of which got him a 6-game suspension. But I have to say, as much as the little rat drives me bonkers sometimes, he's a marketing coup for the NHL. He's entertaining, outspoken, from comparing himself to a Lamborghini. Relative to the Canes' Vinny Trocheck. I guess he said Trocheck was a Prius or something. And he's pushed back on the NHL's decision not to go to the Olympics. And he's given hockey and the league, in my estimation, a profile you just can't buy one way or the other. He's done it. And he makes hockey look interesting in huge swaths of the United States where it's not, frankly. He can be endearingly authentic. He said of the Jarry incident, he's got a lot of cheek here, quote, "Of course it was stupid. I'm not denying that. I absolutely should not have done it. But suspension worthy? I don't think so. So that's classic Marchand. Never admit guilt. Always go on the offensive. So he's my bad for the week, but in kind of a way, he's also my good. Greg, what do you got for us?
Well, my good and my bad are kind of similar to that because they're kind of on the same topic. Is that good for the week is Jacob Markstrom, 8th shutout, only 2 away from Kiprusoff's record of 10. So how can you not give this guy a salute? But the bad is I'm just about ready to put Dan Vladar's face on a milk carton because he is nowhere to be found. And, there's 12 starts in a row for Markstrom, 12 starts. And I wrote a piece this week about how the Flames have to, manage his time in the second half, but they're showing no signs of that. And I really don't know the next time they're going to play Vladar because all of these back-to-backs, you would think he would get a chance, but he's not getting the chance to play. So at some point, I fear it's going to bite the Flames right in the ass where like Markstrom's going to start breaking down because he's never played more than 60 and he's probably on pace for like 65 to 70. So there's my good and bad. Good job getting a shutout, but bad job managing this guy's playing time because I think it's gonna come to a head here eventually.
Okay, well, we're going to get into Mr. Markstrom later in the show. Brett, what do you have for us? You're good and you're bad.
Yes. My good this week, I'm going to give a shout out to Michael Backlund, who's almost had a 180 here in the last little while. I tweeted out the other day his first 28 games, he had 4 goals and 9 points and 58 shots. And then just in his last 15 games, he's had 3 goals, 10 points, and 52 shots. So definitely more activated on the offense, which is definitely what that line needs. I think, Mangiapane continues to click, but you can also see that Blake Coleman's starting to chip in more and more as well. So, if that line gets rolling here in the back half of the season, they'll be looking real good. And then my one bad is I was just reading this afternoon. Apparently there's more rumors that the Flames are one of the teams interested in Ben Sherratt, who's the big left side defenseman in Montreal. It's never bad to have depth defensemen, but it sounds like he's going for a first round pick or more. I have no clue what they're doing. If there's any truth to the rumor, even Trey Living said the other day that they need secondary scoring. So I'm not quite sure why the insiders keep hearing the Flames in on Sherrod.
Yeah. Well, he's getting on, right? He's 30 years old, something?
I believe he's 30, yeah. And he's been in the league for quite a few seasons. But he's had a disastrous season with Montreal. Everybody has, but they already have Zadorov on the back end there, who's a big body who arguably plays better defensively. So I'm not really sure where they're going there.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you see you're taking back everything you said last week about Backlund. You gave me beat him up. So now he's resurrected here.
He's resurrected this week. Yeah, he's been on fire.
He has a history of being slow, of a slow start, maybe because he's getting on in years, but is it me or the last several seasons, he's kind of been slow, and then all of a sudden Backlund hits a point where he just kind of takes off and he kind of becomes the Backlund that everyone wants him to be. It seems like I've seen this act before, so I'm not surprised that he's kind of bouncing back in the second half here.
Yeah. Well, he's bouncing back when he needs to, they needed him to, but I don't know, maybe he was listening to this show. I just decided to put the socks up after last week, but
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. Well, look, let's get into the week in review. Clean sweep. That's the headline. They beat Vegas, the Leafs, Islanders in convincing fashion. And as of Saturday, as of now, the Flames are sitting in second in the Pacific Division, a point behind the Golden Knights. But with 3 games in hand, and the Kings and Ducks are hot on their heels. But again, the Flames have several games in hand on those teams. But I think the point remains, as good as they're doing right now, they have to. They kind of need to. There's no room for error. I think, Brett, you were talking about that in an article you wrote. With the games in hand they enjoy, this is the chance they've got to really cement themselves, as into one of the 3 division playoff spots. But it's going to be tough for the next 6 weeks. They play almost a game every other day. So I wanted to touch on the Toronto game to start with, get your thoughts on this one. Someone said they escaped. That was the word they used with the win against Toronto. And the reason they're saying escape is because of the first period where Toronto basically owned them, outshooting them by a margin of almost 2-1. And they were lucky they weren't down several goals after the end of that period. So my question is, did the Flames just get lucky against the Leafs? How much do we read into that win? Greg, give us your thoughts on that one.
Well, it is a team game, and your goaltender is part of your team. And if your goaltender outplays the other goaltender, then like that can go a long way. And in fact, Markstrom had 46 saves, which was tied the all-time record for saves in a home game for this franchise. I guess he tied Dwayne Rolison's 46 save from 1998. So this was a outstanding performance by Markstrom. And yes, the Flames were opportunistic. I think when they scored those 3 quick goals, they had like 3 goals and 6 shots, and like they on paper, it kind of, if you look at the advanced stats, and like there's all these things you can find online, the deserve to win meter, they have all these glowing things back and forth. I'm too old to understand how it works, but if you look at all that stuff, the Leafs probably should have won that game. But if you have a better goaltender and you take advantage of your chances, then like there's no shame in being outshot 2-1 but still winning.
Yeah.
Even in the Olympics, when Team Canada beat the United States last week, I think they were outshot like 50-25, but they still won that game 4-1. So it's I don't really put too much stock into they escaped or whether they didn't deserve to win. If you have great goaltending and you take advantage of your chances, you put them away, then you deserve to win.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, you can look at all the stats that you want, but at the end of the day, it's what's up there on the scoreboard, and your goaltender has a lot to do with that. I think Sutter said that, right? Sometimes your goaltender has just got to be better than the other guy's goaltender, and the game against Toronto, Markstrom was. Brett, your thoughts on that Toronto game? Were they just lucky, or?
Yeah, I don't think I would call it lucky. I think they were definitely extremely flat in that first period. Like, that was horrible to watch. They couldn't do anything on the power play. Like, Toronto just, I think, and I haven't seen the stat sheet, but just from watching, I think Toronto had more chances shorthanded than Calgary did on the power play.
Yeah.
But as soon as the second goal, I forget from who, you could just kind of see it. It was like the ice tilted the other way all of a sudden. And, Jack Campbell didn't have a very good game for the Leafs, but after that second goal, the Flames just kind of started putting on more and more pressure. And it basically had 180'd in my eyes, that from Toronto, completely dominating to Calgary dominating until they scored that fourth goal. And then it was kind of a little even in the third there. But I think, like Greg's right. It's a team sport, and Markstrom held them in there when they needed it. And so it was definitely a character win, I guess, for sure.
Yeah. Well, they wouldn't be the first team to steal a game because of good goaltending, right? That may be what the Flames do all season with Markstrom, as long as he stays healthy. Well, let's give some thoughts. I wanted to talk about the game with the Knights. Can we pronounce the Flames the best team in the Pacific Division is the question. That was a convincing 6-1 or 6-0 win over the Golden Knights on Wednesday. And Sutter said that Vegas is the team to beat in the Pacific. I don't know. Again, was it the real McCoy that we saw on Wednesday night, the real Flames, or did they just catch the Vegas Golden Knights flat-footed, tired? What do you think, Rick?
Well, it's kind of, you can look at it 2 ways. Like, they had played the night before, but they beat Edmonton pretty handily. And, Edmonton seemed to kind of roll over that night. So I don't know how hard of a game that was for them. And they were missing their captain. I think Stone was out, but they're still the best team in the Pacific Division for a reason. And so I don't really know if the Flames can pronounce themselves, king of the mountain just yet. Even Sutter, after the game, he was very reluctant to kind of praise his team. He said, again, he was kind of heaping praise on Markstrom, saying, he said, you know what, this was actually a 6-5 game if Markstrom doesn't, get that shutout. He was thinking they had so many chances, especially in that second period when Golden Knights are really pressing. And so he's if you talk to Sutter, he thinks this was, no big deal. Like, after that game, that presser, he was like, it's kind of funny. I don't know what it takes to get this guy to get excited about his team. He just always just kind of says, you know what, we're still not there. We're still not there. And maybe that's a good thing, that they don't rest in their laurels. So yes, they manhandle them 6-0, but do I think they're the best team in the Pacific now? I don't know. I guess we'll have to see if they can beat some more high-end teams before I make that call.
Yeah, it's funny what you say about Sutter. He is pretty tight with his compliments. Did he at least crack a smile when he was heaping praise on Markstrom?
Not really. No. I can't really tell when he smiles either. He kind of has that weird bitter beer face that he pulls out. And I don't really know. Yeah. I don't know how to read that guy.
Okay. Brett, what are you thinking? Are they king of the mountain in the Pacific?
No, I think, that definitely was an incredible game they played. I thought they made Vegas look like a minor hockey team, but like Greg said, they played the night before in Edmonton. But also the Flames got completely thumped in Vegas in the beginning of December there. So right. I wouldn't really crown them quite there yet. But I think that 6-0 game definitely goes to show when the team is playing, kind of all synced up, that they're probably one of the top teams. Like they could easily compete with Vegas. So I wouldn't give them the crowning achievement though just yet.
All right. You're almost as stingy as Sutter is, Brett.
Yeah.
You'd be a tough coach.
Never satisfied.
Yeah. Well, this is the Flames Faceoff, brought to you by the Hockey Writers. Don't forget to sign up for the Hockey Writers Morning Skate at morningskate.io so you don't miss the best daily hockey newsletter on the planet, if I do say so myself as a writer for the Hockey Writers. It's delivered every day at 8 a.m. sharp to your inbox, and be the first to know about what's happening in the world of hockey. You'll be the most knowledgeable guy at the water cooler when you get into the office if you read this. Let's go to the shootout round, gentlemen. Starting off with the question, is Tyler Toffoli coming to Calgary? Greg, yes or no? Odds, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think, it's funny, I've been reading about this lately, and I've been seeing some headlines saying it's like a lot of people have penciled in Toffoli to Calgary. And I guess the obvious connections are, like he played with Sutter in those cup years, and he knows some of these guys who played for the Kings as well, like Lucic and Lewis, these guys. So, I guess it would be a good fit. And, I've always liked Toffoli, and of course, like nobody's having a great year in Montreal. That's just kind of a tire fire down there right now. So, but I think he would be, if he wants scoring depth, this is a guy who has been, a good player. And I'm going to say the chances are better than 50%. I'd say I'd say better than that for him to come to Calgary. And I think he would be a welcome addition, to their scoring depth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Elliot Friedman's getting credit for the scoop on this one, Toffoli going to Calgary, but our very own Brett Krauss predicted that, I think, about a month ago. So what do you say, Brett? Are you still standing behind that prediction? And what would you give the odds at?
Yeah, it's hard to say, especially because, as most Flames fans know, probably, have some trauma-related issues from the amount of times the Flames have been right there on a big fish and, have been left at the altar. So, but I think with kind of some of the rumors floating around, I'm gonna give it maybe like a 75% chance. Like Greg said, I think it makes a lot of sense. He's a right wing, could play on that second line. He was former roommates with Sean Monahan in Ottawa in junior. He played with Daryl Sutter and won a cup. So I think it really makes sense. The only issue, I think, is going to be trying to fit him in under the cap. But I think, if Trey Living's sitting there thinking right now he can get Gaudreau, Tkachuk, Mangiapane, Shillington all signed while adding Toffoli into the mix, I think that would be huge, as he's got a couple years left at a reasonable price. And he's a good two-way player. So he fits right into Sutter's system. So, and that, if they think they have, a couple seasons here of making a run at it, then I think it's a no-brainer to go for him.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess you need a guy like Toffoli, for a cup run, right? I mean, you need him before the trade deadline. Greg, your thoughts on that? I mean, could they squeeze him in? What would he cost? Are we talking picks and prospects for rebuilding Montreal?
Well, I think as Brett was saying, I think you have to find a way to fit him into under your cap. So it's like, I think if they bring in Toffoli, I think he's over $4 million a year. They have to get rid of someone, so it's like it's either in that deal or some other deal, they have to unload some of their salary, because maybe they could get him for picks and prospects, but ultimately they have to get rid of somebody. So I don't know who that would be. And, people have been talking about Sean Monahan all year, but like, if you bury this guy on the fourth line and only give him the, power play time, like you're not really showcasing him. He's not really showing he's the player he used to be. So it's like, I don't know who they unload. A lot of people say, well, maybe like Dylan Dubé goes back the other way because he's still someone with a lot of upside, but hasn't really had a great year. So I'm looking at the Flames lineup, and I'm not really sure who they would unload to create some space. But he would be great. I think he would be someone, because the Flames don't have that many players who have like cup experience outside of Lucic and Coleman, Trevor Lewis. They have a few guys who have cup run experience, but this is a guy who's been there, multiple times. So I hope they get him. Yeah.
Well, we're going to see. Brett, your thoughts on Blake Coleman? Is he starting to become the player that the Flames thought they bought last summer, and that is a 20-goal scorer? What are you thinking on Coleman?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think he's, for most of the season has been that player. I think he's just been snake bit a little bit, and now the goals are kind of starting to come. That whole line is starting to get the puck luck and the bounces, and they've been great in their own zone. And Mangiapane's got 22 or 3 goals now, so I think it was always there, but now it's just it's definitely clicking at a higher level than it was. So yeah, I think for sure if it continues this way, he's going to be huge for this team.
Yeah. Greg, what do you think on Coleman? Is he the guy now that they thought they got? I mean, I was doubting it at the start of the season.
Well, I wasn't really too concerned. They signed this guy to, I think, a 5-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. And I know that sometimes when guys change franchises, change teams, it doesn't happen usually overnight where they just click with everybody and they just become the player that everyone thinks they are. So I was never all that worried because it was a long-term deal that they signed this guy to. So I wasn't too concerned that during the first half, the first quarter, he wasn't really producing much, but like he kind of passed the eye test for me out when he was playing. Like he seemed to be kind of engaged and seemed to be, the points weren't coming, but everything else seemed to be there. So I was never really that concerned that he wasn't going to get there. And now that he's probably going to be a 20-goal scorer, I think that's exactly what they're paying him for. So yeah, I think he's on track to becoming the player that they signed him for. And I'm happy to see it because I don't mind a veteran signing like that to kind of give the team a little more depth and a little more playoff experience, which is what he can bring.
Well, let's talk about a young gun, Adam Ruzicka. Do you guys think he's earned himself a full-time spot on the roster? I mean, he looked good last night. He's 22. He started the season in the minors, and he's been in and out of Calgary's lineup. But he's played the last 9 games, 5 points over that span. What do you think, Brett? Is he here to stay?
Yeah, I think he definitely should be looking to get an apartment here and get out of the hotel room. Just from the last night, especially just watching him, he got his nose right in front of the net there and got himself a goal. And then he, so I think I saw last night that Mangiapane said he didn't even notice that Ruzicka passed it to him. He kind of just ended up banking it off his stick and into the net. But yeah, I think, like you said, 5 points in his last 9 games. I think he's really starting to figure it out, and especially 5 points in 9 games playing on fourth line minutes, is pretty decent secondary scoring. So yeah, I think definitely over like a Richardson or a Pitlick, he's definitely earned it because he has more points than both those guys combined now. So yeah, I would like to see him play out the rest of the season for sure.
So what do you think, Greg? Are you going to be making recommendations to him on where to live in Calgary, or telling him, man, don't give up the place in Stockton so fast? What are your thoughts? Is he here to stay?
Well, I have I have a basement bedroom you could rent out for, I'm going to say 1,000 a month. Well, maybe that's too much. No, actually, I think he's an upgrade on like Richardson for sure, and Pitlick, who have really, haven't really done much offensively this year, and just they're supposed to be these like veteran guys who add depth, but they haven't really added that much. And Ruzicka will make mistakes. He's a young guy, but you know what? He played his 14th game for the Flames yesterday, and and that means he's played more for the Flames than he has for the Stockton Heat. He had hit 13 games for the Heat. Now he has 14 games for the Flames. So I think the scales have tipped in his favor. I think he'll spend the rest of his time in Calgary. And one thing that's kind of interesting is that people calling him fourth line, but in some of these games, they're getting more ice time than the Monahan line. So we get him and Lucic seem to have, and Trevor Lewis, these two veteran guys seem to be clicking with him a bit, and they're definitely seeming more effective than Monahan's line. So you could say that he's a third line center now. So, and on some nights at least. So I think he'll stick around, and I'd like to. We've been rooting for young guys to get called up all year. So I'm glad that one has stuck, and I still wouldn't mind seeing little Mr. 5'7" Matthew Phillips come up, but I'm not sure if that. And even Brad Treliving mentioned that on the radio last week on Sportsnet 960 that he's earned a shot, but I guess it's not up to Treliving to call him up. It's up to the coach Daryl Sutter. So anyways, It's good to see a young guy thriving on the Flames lineup anyways.
Yeah. I was watching him. He really, Ruzicka is a big guy. I just can't help but think, if he had a little more of a mean streak in him, he might be even better than he is now. So we'll have to watch for that. I don't know. Maybe he should hang out with Lucic or something.
Playing off on his line, he might turn into a mean guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's start rumors here. Elias Lindholm for the Frank J. Selke Award. That is the forward who demonstrates the most skill in the defensive part of the game for a forward. Does he have a shot, and should he be in the running? Brett, what do you think? Are we going to see him awarded that?
Yeah, I think he may be in tough, because I think he's definitely a little bit more under the radar than, the Patrice Bergerons and the Kopitars of the world. But I think Markstrom wasn't off saying that he's one of the best in the league. Because, a couple weeks ago, I wrote an article saying that he has, earned number one center status. He's decent amount of points this year. I mean, that whole line is 1, 2, 3 on team scoring. And he plays great in his own zone. They all have, terrific defensive numbers. So I think he definitely deserves some recognition. I'm not quite sure if he's going to win it, but definitely wouldn't be surprised to see him be a finalist for sure.
Yeah, Markstrom had high praise. Those Swedes, they do stick together. Greg, you're thinking, does he have a legit shot at the Selke, Mr. Lindholm?
Well, I think he does, but we've talked about in the past, like sometimes these Western Conference teams just don't get, the views basically that the Eastern teams get. And so sometimes these Eastern writers are going to bed by the time some of these Western games start, especially if the Flames are playing on the West Coast teams. So, he definitely deserves it. He deserves one of those 3 slots to be nominated, but would he actually win? That's the other thing. I think we complain about this bias, but I think it's real. And so I would say his chances of winning it are slim, but the guy has done everything right this year, everything Sutter has asked him to do. And Brett's right. This is a guy who didn't start off as a center in this organization, but kind of has transformed it to a really good one. And even Sutter compared him to Kopitar earlier this season, which is pretty high praise. So absolutely he deserves it, but would he win? I would not bet the farm on that one. So I'm sorry.
Yeah. Fair point. I mean, those Eastern writers, the Toronto Sports Network, they polish off a bottle of Scotch watching the Leafs, and then it's time to go to bed. So they're not even seeing the late Western game. But
damn those Eastern writers.
You should. You sound like a member of the Maverick Party or something. Well, let's close off really fast on one rumor here. Mr. Markstrom. I mean, this august panel pronounced him a shoo-in for the best goalie in the league, the best goalie award, the Vezina, at the start of the year. Then we buried him. And now I guess we're wondering whether he deserves to be resurrected. What do you think, Brett? Would you put him in the running again for the Vezina?
Yeah, I think he's going to be in real tough against Shesterkin in New York there to win it. But I think he's definitely. I think he'll end up a finalist. I might even go out on a limb and say I think he passes Kiprusoff's shutout record of 10 in a season, because he's at 8 already. So he's. But yeah, it'll be tough, I think, to win. I think Shesterkin has all but locked it up, but finalist for sure. I would bet on that. Okay,
Brett or Greg, would you put money on Markstrom being at least a finalist?
Oh, I think you can't really. He's got like double the shutouts of the next guy on the shutout list in NHL right now. I think you really can't ignore that. I think he's like top 6 or top 5 in a lot of these categories, plus you add all those shutouts. And I think you have to make him finalist, especially if he continues with the strong play. And that's the big question. Can he continue it? I still think, I think people are calling me a worrywart, but I still think that he should, slow down a little bit. I know he's the kind of guy who wants to compete. I think he'd want to play every game that he could. So I just don't know if he's has the stamina for that, because he's not a super young goalie, but he's not also one that has a history of being super healthy either. So I hope he can stay healthy, and if he does and can continue his play, he's a shoo-in to be nominated. But once again, those Eastern Riders, they're not going to give it to him. They don't see him half his game. Right. So
okay, you heard it here, and I don't know, Greg, if you come back east again next summer, you may have to go into a witness protection program. I don't know.
That's okay. Okay.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. We've run out of time, but as usual, that was a great discussion. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And thank you, everybody, for joining us again this week. Now, before you go, just in case we haven't convinced you to sign up for that newsletter, the Morning Skate, with our first 2 plugs, if you sign up for the Morning Skate newsletter, you'll get to relive some of Wes McCauley's most legendary moments as an NHL referee. You got to check that out. It's hilarious. And it's the kind of content you get at the Morning Skate that puts a smile on your face. So join them fun at morningskate.io, and we'll see you next week. Take care.